Ladies and gents, grab your tea, grab your biscuits, and get comfy because today we're going to talk about Crown of Midnight. Crown of Midnight is a young adult high fantasy novel written by Sarah J. Maas, and we follow the story of Celaena Sardothien, who, after winning a competition to become the king's champion, is now employed by him and is technically the royal assassin for her continent, essentially. Just a little disclaimer, this review / discussion will have spoilers in it, so if you don't like spoilers, I would click away now. But if you don't mind spoilers, continue. Without further ado, let's dive into the review. Crown of Midnight actually has a very, very simple plot. Celaena has won the competition, she's now the king's champion and / royal assassin, but she doesn't actually do any assassinating in this book. I get that she doesn't like the king and she doesn't like the royal family and she hates the fact that she's now working with him in order to win her freedom. But she doesn't actually do any assassinating. Instead, what she's doing is every time the king tells her to go and assassinate someone, she fakes their death, helps them escape the continent, and finds a dead body and a head that she can kind of pass off as her victim. So she's not actually doing the work that she's been set. Yeah, first of all, when I'm presented with a main character who is supposed to be an assassin but doesn't actually do any assassinating, it's a bit disappointing. We know that Celaena is not killing the targets that the king gives her, and the rebel movement in a neighbouring city is growing, and essentially she has been tasked with finding out who these rebels are and taking them out one by one. It's then later revealed that Princess Nemina is actually helping these rebels and funding them and giving them information from the castle, which then leads Celaena to tell Nemina that she's not actually killing the people that the king tells her to kill, she's actually letting them live and helping them escape. Dorian and Chaol spend this entire novel thinking of Celaena as nothing but a ruthless killer, yet they both still have these really awkward, unanswered feelings for her, which develops the love triangle a bit more, and it actually makes it more cringy and unreadable. That is the main thing I absolutely hated about Crown of Midnight, is this stupid ass love triangle. The plot doesn't actually kick off until you get just past the halfway mark. So just at the end of Act 2, coming into Act 3, a major character dies, and that character is Princess Nemina. Very, very sadly, because I really, really enjoyed her character, and I think that she could have been such a key player in the rest of these novels, and I really don't like the fact that Sarah J. Maas killed her off in Crown of Midnight, but without Princess Nemina's death, the plot would never have actually started. Celaena naturally loses her shit over this. So she goes out, she gets revenge on the man who killed Nemina, by dicing him up in an alleyway, essentially. The next time we see Celaena, she's walking into the king's council chamber with this guy's head in her hand, which she dumps on the table and then proceeds to blame one of the king's councilmen for sending that assassin to go kill her best friend. That's a really, really cool moment, you know, walking into a council room with a head in your hand, like, yeah, I solved it. Crown of Midnight was more like a character study than it was anything else. So the characters get a bit more developed. Celaena's relationships with Chaol and Dorian get explored a bit more. There is this kind of final fight thing that happens at the very, very end where we do get a major development in Celaena's character. So she's so heartbroken about her friend dying that she just wants to talk to her friend again. So she ends up using these weird marks to open a portal into another world. She does get to speak to Nemina, but then the portal doesn't close and a monster comes through and tries to kill her, Chaol, Dorian, and Fleetfoot. Fleetfoot being Celaena's dog and probably one of my favorite characters in the entire book, to be honest. So the creature grabs Fleetfoot, jumps into this portal, Chaol goes after the dog, Celaena runs in after Chaol, and the second that she steps into this other world, where magic is still a thing, she transforms into a fae, ends up using magic in front of Chaol. That's when Chaol really gets irritating for me, because he sees her in this new fae form, he sees her using magic, and he is now more wary and distrusting of her than he's ever been before. So when it came to Crown of Midnight and the overall world building of it, it was a bit easier to visualize the world and the general spaces that we were in when reading through the chapters, because Crown of Midnight very much takes place in the exact same places that Throne of Glass does. Although this time we do venture into the city more, and we do get to experience a bit more of life outside the castle and what it's like to live in the capital. So the capital, like any city really, it's got the very, very nice, posh, high-end parts, then it's got like the middle class section, and then it's got the slums and the sewers and the dockyards and black markets in there as well somewhere. And the slums are described as very, very, very disgusting and horrible and smelly, and then the middle class sort of area is, again, just giving me mad 18th century London vibes. And then when we get to like the really high-end part of the city where all like the expensive tea houses are, where the theatre is, that just gave me mad Pride and Prejudice vibes. So now I'm kind of in this world of 18th century London with a little bit of Pride and Prejudice. I was half expecting Mr. Darcy to make an appearance at some point. In Throne of Glass, I really, really enjoyed Celaena's character. In Crown of Midnight, I really didn't. And my dislike of Dorian and Chaol got even worse. Chaol was annoying me quite a lot because he constantly would have this internal struggle of embracing his feelings for Celaena, but not wanting to hurt Dorian, but then wanting to be the perfect palace guard to protect the king and his family. And then he was constantly scared of Celaena because of, you know, she's a very, very capable killer, and he's not, so yeah. Dorian was a bit more interesting in Crown of Midnight because there's this whole, does he have magic, does he not have magic? He does have magic. By the end of the book, Dorian definitely does have magic. And he's kind of going through this process of trying to accept the fact that he's got it and trying to figure out where in his bloodline this magic has come from, because his bloodline has been famously known for not having magic users for a couple of generations now, so he's trying to figure that out. So that was kind of a bit more interesting when it came to Dorian. And Namina, again, I really enjoyed Namina's character right up to the point where she died. I kind of enjoyed the introduction of Archer. Obviously being a male courtesan, that was really, really interesting, but I couldn't quite figure out his agenda for the entirety of the book until his big betrayal was revealed at the end. So it was nice that we had a character that wasn't really predictable. There is one particular scene that I absolutely hated though, and that is when Celaena gets all dolled up to go have dinner with him to squeeze him for information about the rebels. Definite sexual tension between the two of them. And I just didn't like it at all. She is ruthlessly flirting with him and he's ruthlessly flirting back. And then in the carriage ride home, it gets a bit more tense, and then she reveals, oh, by the way, I was sent here to kill you. And then suddenly the atmosphere completely changes, which was nice because that kind of added to the pacing of the story a little bit. But what I don't like is that particular interaction between Celaena and Archer, because they were kind of presented as old friends when we were first introduced to Archer's character, and then it was almost like they were ex-lovers, and then she revealed that she was there to kill him, so their relationship is rocky at best. Overall character development, it definitely was there in Crown of Midnight, because I do think Crown of Midnight focuses so much more on the characters than it does anything else. It did develop Dorian a bit more, which is what I really liked. I felt that there was development with Chaol, but when it came to how Crown of Midnight ended, it felt like we took 2 steps forward with Chaol's character development, and then we took 6 steps back. The writing of Crown of Midnight is very, very similar to Throne of Glass, naturally, because it's the same author and it's the same series. And this time I did feel a bit more drawn into it though. I felt less like an outsider kind of looking in. We definitely get a lot more of our characters' inner thoughts and how they're feeling. That was better in terms of it helped me connect with the characters a bit more. Again, those dashes are so prominent that it ruins the pacing completely. The pacing again is slow. The descriptions only really came into full force when an action point happened. So when we get a lovely action point, which is definitely a break from the very monotonous tone that this book has taken, that's when the descriptions got really, really good. So for me, it was very easy to visualize the fights, like how the characters are moving, what the weapons look like, and what their surroundings are looking like as well. So the action points were probably the best part of this book. There is This one line, however, which I will never forget for the rest of my reading career. Just before Selena and Kale start getting jiggy under the sheets with each other, they have their first kiss. First kisses in young adult fantasy novels are very, very big deals, and they're often described to be these wonderful, beautiful feelings and emotions flowing through, and fireworks are going off, and the character's skin is glowing, and just, yeah, so we all know what first kisses are like in young adult fantasy novels. This first kiss, however, is described as so. The kiss obliterated her. It was like coming home or being born. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, no one can actually remember the feeling of being born. Birthing another human being is not what I want to be thinking about during a potential love, romance, sort of sexy scene. No, that one line just kind of solidified my thoughts about the whole writing style. Thank you very, very much for watching my review / discussion about Crown of Midnight, and my Goodreads star rating was a 2 out of 5. It does have some really fantastic action points in it though, and I do still recommend it if you are a fantasy fan or if you're a Sarah J Maas fan. This is the second book of the Throne of Glass series, so it's preceded by Throne of Glass and it's followed by Heir of Fire. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I will catch you in my next one. Stay safe.